Welcome to the Sports Swiss Show. Today we have with us Neerav Ghosh and Gaurav Kapoor, the men behind some of your favorite sports content pieces such as Breakfast with Champions or the 22 Yarns podcast with Gaurav Kapoor via their content company Oak Tree Sports. They've worked with various brands and teams such as Twitter, Chennai FC, Mumbai Indians, Reliance Foundation, Delhi Capitals, just to name a few. Today, we'll be speaking to them on how they managed to establish Oak Tree Sports, the vision behind the company, and their ability to produce highly engaged and viewed content across all platforms. Let's dive into it. Neerav, Gaurav, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Good. Or still figuring out his camera.
I just thought maybe since I am so freakily tall, maybe just give a little bit more height to this. बातें हमारी ऊंची नहीं है, पर कैमरा हमारा ऊंचा है. We're doing well, thank you. How are you, Ananya?
Doing very well. Great to have you. And I can't wait to dive into the chat further and get all the great insights. Gaurav, maybe I'll start with you and kind of learn about your career trajectory in the sports field. So most people in India have this cricket overload. They grow up as cricket fans with their friends. I mean, wherever you go out, there's sort of cricket all around us in India. But how did you manage to convert that passion that you probably had for cricket into a career and become this celebrated cricket host, this TV presenter, this media personality?
I was always, you're correct. I was always into cricket ever since a very young age. I mean, since I was 5-6 years old, I used to watch it with my dad. We used to discuss it. We used to make, I found a diary about 10-15 years ago of, my pre-teen years. I was perhaps playing Fantasy League before we even knew what it was, because I found a diary that was an India-England match. And I think my dad had told me, what do you think would be the likely 11 for both teams? We found that register and I had sort of made notes in that. So that was probably how it all started. And I was extremely keen and interested, of course, in the game, which is not a big surprise in India. I think, 9 out of 10 people are. And then I started my entertainment journey with doing, people know as, radio and Channel V. But at the same time, Neerav and my paths actually crossed 20 years ago without us we didn't really work together, but sort of working in the same place. So one of the first things I did in sport was 20 years ago. Fresh out of college, I think.
22.
22 years old. Yeah, sorry, I was in college. Sorry, just out of school. And I was doing the voiceover for a show which Neerav was called. What's it? World of Cricket? World of Sport? Some such. It was a roundup.
Yeah.
It was a roundup show that these guys were all working on. The OGs of sport broadcasting in India. And these guys were working on the show, and I used to come in like this.
Actually, I was actually making a music video for the same producers. I wasn't working on the show. So I was making this is 99 World Cup. So I was doing a music video which TWI was producing.
Yeah, so there you go. So that's when. So I ended up going to an exhibition cricket game with Neerav's accreditation. I'd never met him, and his accreditation. And I remember I was like, who is this guy? Because there was name and title. They write name and what's your title? Title is associate producer something. But Neerav had written, for title you'd written, Duke of
Wessex or something.
Yeah. I was like, who's this guy? He's hilarious. And then we never met. And then, through personal connections and,
In Channel V. We met in Channel V, I think.
Yeah, so
edit at the back.
His brother-in-law is a really close friend of mine from Delhi, etc., etc. So that's how we kind of met. But sorry, I digressed a little bit to the sporting story, but I went on to do Channel V. I did some films, but this love for cricket was always there. And I got an opportunity because some of my friends who were working in the field just knew how nuts I was about it. And they just needed a presenter who could handle live and who knew cricket for a tournament that nobody watched on a channel that doesn't exist anymore. And I just said yes. And so we'll figure it out after that. So did the first one. That first one gave way to then 4 or 5 different shows with ESPN and then the IPL. So it just rolled. So I think it was just the fascination that was there, which people in power sort of knew that it was, and they trusted me with it. And then it just sort of rolled from one thing to the other.
Super cool. Very inspiring.
I think the only inspirational bit in that is that just say yes and then figure it out.
That is so important, though. I mean, most people refuse to say yes, but I think just saying that is so important, and then just pulling through. Nirav, on to you. Now
Hmm.
you are a director by profession, and the skills may remain the same in within direction. But then, how did you sort of, or rather, why did you decide to join forces with Gaurav and transcend those skills into a completely different genre, which is sports?
So yes, you're right. The skills remain the same as a director. I mean, the definition I read once in a book was the director is the manager of all creative resources, or something like that. And then by the end of the chapter, it said it's the director's main job is not being the manager of creative resources, but it's creatively managing the resources. So that's the skill, So the director is the captain of the ship who steers, or more accurately, helms the narrative and the dramatic aspects in fiction. You need to control. I mean, the skills which are required are in fiction slightly, and which is kind of where I was coming from before Oak Tree. You need to control the visual scape, the narrative, guide the technicians, but where it comes and where the common points are is that the end goal remains the same. It's towards telling a compelling story, towards telling an entertaining story, providing entertainment. So that doesn't change whether it's films or TV or ads or digital content or documentaries or 1 minute Instagram videos or whatever it is. The job of a director effectively remains the same. The medium changes in a sense. So compared to fiction, in a way, this is more difficult in the sense that when I used to do fiction, I used to enjoy the process of being in control of the story aspects. Create the characters and be involved from day one, because you actually get to create the story from the beginning, and the layout, the plot line. And where I'm now working with Oak Tree, because we work with sports content with most of the time with elite athletes. So the one thing which has changed is I don't have to deal with actors, and that's fantastic. Uh, because my cast, as I said, is invariably these elite athletes, right? Who are who already have great characters. The plot lines of their stories are already very dramatic. For each one of them, right? They're strong, they're passionate, they're dynamic people. So I have real heroes to work with, and so the storytelling comes easier here, I feel, because I'm not creating the story. I mean, I'm just finding good ways and different ways to tell it.
When you two came together, though, what was the initial mission and vision behind Oak Tree Sports?
So it almost started by, again, the company starting again is a story of just saying yes and figuring it out. Because a few months before, Nirav and I sort of reunited on this. And again, I don't think it was a conscious decision saying from today we're working together. Again, it just sort of flowed from one project into the other till we formalized this little liaison that we were, still affair that we were having. But a few
serendipitous relationship.
Yes, so a few months before that, I had been basically chomping the ear of anyone who would listen to me, saying that sport and storytelling, we need to do more. You need to do short format, connect with the fans, etc., etc. And a friend of mine, Sundar Raman, who was the COO of the IPL, and I had chewed his ear off all the time, saying, "What are you guys doing? You guys don't do enough storytelling, wrap around." And he would keep telling me, "But you're part of Sony. You guys have to do it." I was like, "No, you take too much money from them." There's bizarre discussions. And then he joined Reliance Sport and he said, "Listen, you've been talking about this so much. Why don't you come and meet the Mumbai Indians people and see if you can do something there with that team?" So I went and met them, and I was just a consultant. And we made the content buckets for what turned out to be MITV, which we've done for 6 years in a row now. We've produced. And I came up with the name MITV. I said, "This is what you need to do with the fans." We came up with some content buckets, etc., with another person from sport called G. Srinivasan, used to work with Reliance at the time. And we came up with all these things. And after they did that, they got this approved and said, "All right, this is great. Go ahead and make it." She said, "Okay, figure it out. How hard can it be?" Apparently very hard, right? Producing is a very hard job. And I got it wrong the first time around. And Nirav almost was like a rescue act. So I said, we can figure this out. And I got, a couple of people, and they were just phenomenally mediocre, right? They just didn't know what they were doing. and I was pretty much done. And this is the time when I was doing extra innings as well. So I would go in the morning to the Trident, South Bombay, then I'd go North Bombay to the extra innings studio. I was just running 16, 17-hour days. And then our friend Ankur Tiwari, the musician, he just said, listen, Neerav has just finished Mid-Wicket Tales. He was doing this show, which of course became universally acclaimed show later. But that time he just finished filming it. And he said, listen, I know he's free for a couple of months. Why don't you ask him? I said, well, he feels like a little overqualified for this job. He says, well, you never know if he's, creative people just do stuff for fun. He can only say no to you if you ask. He says, if you don't ask, what's the point? And by that time, I think Neerav and me, anyway, separate paths. We had not met in a couple of years of, just maybe sporadically. We just hadn't really been in touch. So I just called him. I said, what are you doing? I said, come have lunch. Let me take you out for lunch. And I remember you were babysitting Kyra that day as well. So he said, I'll bring her. I said, of course, seen her since she was a child. Of course she can come. We're not discussing a takeover of the government. So I said, just bring her. And then we had lunch together. And I said, do you want to do this? This will be fun. And he said, yeah, sure. Actually, I'm waiting on this next project to start. I actually have a month and a half free. So he literally started from the next day and saved me from what was potentially just would have been disastrous. And this company would have drowned before it even sort of set foot into the water. And that's what he did. He took over from there. And then, we made 150 videos for, and because they liked it so much, Reliance, they said, do you want to pitch for a tennis documentary with us with Leander Paes? Neerav's a big tennis fan. I'm a tennis fan. We know Leander well. We pitched this documentary and we kind of turned around a London shoot in almost 48 hours. That's when we realized that as producers, we're obviously doing something right if we can pull this off. And we made that. And it's only after that when we did 4 or 5 months of it. And then I had shot a few episodes. As last part of the stories, I had shot a few episodes of Breakfast with Champions. We were just sitting on it. I was waiting for some channel to buy it and they were passing on it. And Neerav said, but why don't we just start getting this edited? And the editor was free after the documentary, started editing the episodes of Breakfast with Champions. And we were just working out of this very room that Neerav is sitting in right now. This very room we were sitting in. I was pretty much sitting where Neerav is right now. He was sitting under the Al Pacino poster and he said, why don't we just put this show out? I said, where? He says, on YouTube. So, well, he says, why did you make this show? Did you make it thinking commercially? I said, no, I made it because I feel there is a gap in the market, this show. He says, well, then if you want to own the narrative, just put it out. And we put it out. And I think that's around when Oak Tree kind of came to be formally, like done the paperwork and stuff. And that's when Neerav came on as a co-founder. We said, do you really want to do this? At that time, he was still thinking another film or something or, fiction. And I think that's how it just and this process that I'm talking about has been over about 8 or 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
So because we spent 4 months going to people and showing them the first 6 episodes of Breakfast with Champions and them telling us what we should do with it. The one guy, I remember one guy said, make segments in the show, have a segment called Rapid Fire and have one called Opinions or whatever, because at that time there were no reference points for this kind of a show. I think there was only one, commercially successful chat show with a leading film director and film stars in it. And, that was the only reference points out there. It was a hit show. And if something had been tried and worked, you needed to follow it, right? Except you don't really need to do that on YouTube or on any digital format, right? On any digital platform. So I think the fact that we wanted to try out different things, I think that's the, and as Gaurav said, it's not like it happened overnight. The company existed, but it took about 8-10 months of figuring out. I don't know
what the mission was, whether we had a common aligned mission. And honestly, 4 years on, we still don't know. We still argue about it right now.
I don't think we laid out a mission or objective ever. We kind of have this, unsaid, unspoken match of ideas of what Oak Tree is and what it should be. Yeah. In a sense, we have obviously shared roles, right? Because there is a strategic vision where GK leads and I follow, and we have a creative vision where I lead and Gaurav plays devil's advocate and helps me shape it. And we kind of, because our role definitions don't overlap. I mean, even now, I think Gaurav looks at top line, I look at bottom line. Gaurav deals with the clients in the front end, I look at back end execution. He's good cop, I'm bad cop. He entertains, I enlighten. It's like a pairing of 2 things which go together and at the same time are slightly different, like a bow and arrow or salt and pepper or
tea and a cup and a saucer.
Cup in a saucer, rhythm and blues,
Rock and
Guns and
roll.
Roses, Guns and Roses, rock and roll.
Let's
Yeah.
just do this for the next 20 minutes. That's it, Ananya. Jump in. Let's just do it. Like Laura and Hardy. Come on,
I
your
don't
turn.
understand that.
Tom
game.
and Jerry. So that's what happened. And I think the one thing we were aligned towards being sports fans. Like, listen, we want to tell great stories in sports. So here's if there was a mission that I was to articulate, it is to increase, we want to make a community of engaged sports fans in India, right? So there's a lot of sports fans. I don't think there's a community there because there is no hub of storytelling, right? And if we want to increase fandom in other sports, how does fandom happen? Fandom happens when there is context. Context comes when you know the stories. So let's turn the dial back and start telling the stories. Because once you tell the stories, people will have context. Today, you know about some team in Tokyo, perhaps, that you like, or something in Tokyo you like, because you have context. You're there. You know the story. You've heard that this corner makes the best tofu because their fermentation process is 72 hours under bright sunlight or something like that, right? And you know the story, and that's why you get the context and you become a fan. And then when you tell us, that's how the legend grows, right? We'll be sitting here, do you know there's a restaurant in Tokyo? We tell 20 other people, right? So that's the oldest form of entertainment and enlightenment and spreading of knowledge in the world is storytelling. So that's what we want to do. So we always tell the team that we don't make sports shows. We don't. We make great stories, great human stories with sport as the backdrop, right? And if it's a good human story, it doesn't matter if it's about sport, if it's about tofu, if it's about biochemistry, you will just remember those stories because they're great human stories or stories of human triumph. So I think that's what we like to focus on. And that's a very important point, which is that the point and counterpoint, the foil and counterfoil, I think that's extremely important because I genuinely believe that in business, you have to optimize your strength and outsource your weakness. And I think for both of us, we end up doing that a lot. Like Nirav just does not like people, right? So just don't make me talk to human beings.
I don't like interfacing with people too much.
That's it. He doesn't mind if people are around. He will bear them. He doesn't want to engage with them really as much. And so I do that, right? Whereas he is extremely diligent with paperwork and I get hives when I think about paperwork. So I know that is covered, right? So I can fight with the client and try to get more money and he will keep the back end and make sure that we spend lesser. So therefore, our margins as a company become far healthier than anybody else's, of course, without compromising quality. So I think that's very important for people out there. If you're saying founder, co-founder, if you have two people who have sort of exactly the same skill sets, then well, don't do it because you guys are going to overlap and there's going to be a clash. There has to be a complementary skill set, which is coming there, which then also allows us not to interfere in each other's thing too much.
And also, it's important to keep the ego out of the process. I mean, both of us do have strong egos, but I
Not
think
with ideas.
Not with ideas, yeah. So it's almost like many times if I literally cook up something and it's not to his taste, it doesn't become a conflict, right? I mean, we both need to eat, so we keep trying out different things. I say, should I add some more salt or pepper or cheese in this or bacon in this or whatever, avocado, and if it's still crap, then we throw it out and start cooking all over again. So it forces each of us to be clear-minded because of constant devil's advocacy, and we need to do this periodically, right? Because especially the last year has shown us that there are ups and downs, and there are times when things don't work, and sometimes actually things go too well, and that's also a time when you need to reassess and say, are you doing it because are you doing a particular project because it's really good money or because it's good celebrity or whatever, and then you have to keep reminding yourself. Sometimes one of us goes slightly askew, and then we have to revisit the dream and keep going back to saying, would we have made the same choices under different circumstances of whatever. Because it's at the end of it, we both of us individually could have different careers altogether at this point. As you said upfront, Ananya, both of us already have. I mean, Gaurav was successful as a host and presenter. He needn't have done a production company, right? Oak Tree is where we bring in heart, we bring in soul, we bring in mind and back pocket. And the balance of that needs to be. It's something which we keep finding and we keep reassessing every
Like I'll give
every
you,
every couple of months, and we call it our general body meeting.
yeah. I'll like for give you an example. Like about a year ago, I told Nirav, I said, see, I still am doing things as an artist, right? So I still do those things. So if I have itches, I can scratch that. I said, you're doing this. So what do you really want to do, right? In this, what do you really want to do, right? Do you want to make a podcast? You want to make a show for this? You want to make a show there? You want to write? What do you really want? And he said, we want to, he says, I would really want to work on long form, maybe a series or a film. I said, well, let's chase that then, right? Because that's the only way you grow, right? And we will find people who will run the business that we are already doing with our supervision. So how can we pull you out actively from one thing while you still control it on a supervisory basis? Because you want to see it, it is your baby after all. But you focus on this new thing. So now we're developing long form content. So we have 2 or 3 different projects, documentary, biopic, etc., which are in development, which Nirav is doing. So we have a social media head and you have a business head, someone who just takes care of all of that. Doesn't need to worry about it. He'll get into it if and when he wants to, or if I really need him to. Because so some of the meetings I'll call him and say, I really need you to be on this because I think that these guys have no idea what's going on, right? So you have to jump onto this. Or this person is giving a brief, I want you to be there, but you can just be silent, mute your video, and then you sign in with some other name, it's fine. But I want you to just listen to it from them. So it's also about protecting and looking out, for each other. I think that's also extremely important. And we don't just do that with each other, we also do that with our entire team. And that's something that I've actually learned from Nirav, because Nirav is extremely empathetic to all our team members. First of all, we never call them employees. We never say they're working for us. We always say they're working with us and their teammates. And we have, in fact, told a couple of people who hit a glass ceiling with us that we can't do more for you. So if you want to go look for something else, please do. And we will help you. And we've done that. Or within this, would you like to find another role in this company? Let's try to carve it out for you. You are showing some interest towards, another field. Let's push you towards there. So therefore, we have an army of multitaskers who come in with some other qualifications, but on the back of the strength of their passion and their gumption, they just become pros in something else. A guy who came in as an intern editor today is our lead DOP, our lead camera person on a project we're making for the Olympic Committee, right? A guy who came in as a sound recordist, plug mics, has done now, I think, about 20 original tracks for Breakfast with Champions.
Wow.
So we just keep telling people, push yourself, push yourself. There is a brand head right now we had hired as a social media intern. She was a social media intern because she used to write a blog. And she came in, and within 2 months, I figured out that she's super sharp, was not going to get an opportunity in the traditional workspace, corporate workspace. And I told Nirav, I said, well, we're just grooming her now to be, sort of brand head. And she's head of branded content now. And trust me, she's probably going to be a GM or something in a couple of years. So that's what you do. You push people to the edges in a ring that they like. You put them in the correct boxing ring and you see their punches go. That's what you need to do. You need to find the correct ring for them. Is it wrestling? Is it boxing? Is it MMA? A lot of people are kind of in the wrong akhada, so to speak. Put them in the right one.
Very well said. Like you mentioned, though, just sort of coming back to what you mentioned early on in the conversation with Breakfast with Champions, some people passing on that content. Now, when you create that content or something along similar lines, do you see sort of an appetite for sports content other than cricket, or the content that you're trying to bring to the table increase?
I'll take that. It's 2 things, right? Obviously, success opens a lot of doors. As producers, a lot more people are reaching out and saying, make some stuff for us, and they, anybody will pick our call now, right? So that's what will happen, because now not only do we know them, we also have a track record, right? So they will want to engage with us, not just take our call, but also engage with us. Cricket in this country is low-hanging fruit. It's the lowest common denominator. Everybody loves it. You can cast the net far and wide. With other sport, yes, you still find a fair bit of opposition. Saying, I don't know, but can we just do something with cricket? I think Breakfast with Champions is a good example of that. Just it became a victim of its own success in terms of when we started it. I wanted to have seasons which would be one season would just be, it was not just limited to sport. In fact, I had thought that what's a champion? A champion can be any field. I'd do one with, just champions of industry, right? What stops me from getting Kumar Mangalam Birla and Ratan Tata? Kiran Mazumdar Shaw. You get, people like that on the show, and you talk to them. But then, because it became successful as a cricket show, now we find opposition to even get other sport people on it. Leave alone, go outside sport.
Yeah.
So whenever we try to do anything, the opposition or the pushback you get from the market is that, oh, but only cricket sells. And I always say that cricket only sells because we're only selling cricket.
Mm.
We're not trying to sell anything else. Let's try to sell something. Let's drop the price or try to sell something else. So we're trying. That is the mission. We're trying, but it is a long and lonely and dark and windy road with a lot of ghosts on it. But we won't give up. We'll keep moving.
As long as there's light at the end of the tunnel, hopefully we have.
I hope so. I hope so, because we see sometimes people are getting interested in sport. We have worked across football with the Chennai Football Club. We worked with, the table tennis league. I've done some stuff with sort of wrestling, kabaddi, etc. So when you go there, you see that there is. But what happens is, making content is not just a one size fits all. It's not like, oh, I made a tennis show. You've got to work the economics. You've got to work the audience. You can't have, a show for sport A with a certain cast at the same price as sport B with a different cast, right? So you need to understand the market. So that's something that I spend a lot of time doing, which is understanding the market. What's the appetite? What's the size? And I really enjoy sort of that, and enjoy sort of seeing trends and stuff. And then that also helps me with Nirav and their team. I can sort of almost tell them, this story is becoming too expansive. Maybe if we can just narrow it down, or this one is just too simplistic, I think we can open it up a little bit. So that's the insight that I can give, which I think just kind of helps the creative process. Because another thing Nirav and I have in common is we don't tend to get very personal about our creative output. We treat it as a product, because that allows us to be objective about it.
I'll just add to that, especially because of the last thing you said. There's probably been very few things in Oaktree which I've really taken personally, which have crept in deep to me. And one of them is a football documentary which we've been shooting now for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And it's got no A-listers. It's about a team which is, struggling in Kashmir, and we're still on it. And it's been, I think, 2.5 years we've been shooting. We couldn't shoot for the last few months. We'll pick it up again and continue until we've found the story. And I think also the biggest content piece, or the biggest show we've got out of the lockdown, is a non-cricket show. It's an Olympic level, Olympic athlete sport. So a show with Olympic athletes. So I think if that answers your question, I think there is a change. Yes, cricket remains the low-hanging fruit and remains the high revenue piece for us. But if these two examples are anything to go by, the heart and the back pocket is covered from non-cricket as well.
And then when you're working with some of these clients, what's your process like? Like you said, figuring out the market, figuring out the economics of it. How do you sort of create that content that actually helps their communities, helps their fans, supercharges their fans?
There's two ways of looking at it. One, of course, is so there's two parts of the business, and I think those were the two post-its that were up on the wall, which is the left of where Nirav is. Probably not there anymore. But I said our company is going to be a mix of build and build. So BUILD and BILLED. So the first one being our IPs that we create and our own properties, and the second one being the agency model, right? So you're creating something which is commissioned, so that is owned by somebody else. The process, which is latter, is very simple to explain, because it's a bit like an advertising agency or any agency where a client comes to us and saying, this is our problem, this is who we want to reach out to, this is what we want to do, etc., etc. We kind of ideate, we come up with how they would be best served. And, you serve it to them, you budget it, you make it, you hand it over. I think what excites us, and that's exciting as well. But what really sort of is the reason why we set up Oaktree was the first one, which is to build something. So to create IPs. And I always tell people that that's your real jaidad. right? That's your real sort of wealth. Jaidat ka English word kya hota hai, Neeru? Jaidat is
Inheritance.
inheritance. So that's your real inheritance. Or that's the real inheritance you leave. Anyway, Jaidat, people know. So that's your real Jaidat is the IPs that you create. And when we create IPs, there's ways of doing it. We just think of a show. We just blank canvas, blue ocean mandate. You just think of a show. And then we say, all right, this kind of show. Just blanket, don't limit yourself, just make it. Now, this kind of show, I know that these three platforms are looking for something like this. I know that these couple of brands, this aligns with their mission statement. And then you go to them with the idea, right? And then we know how to package the idea in terms of, the metrics we're going to deliver, the amplification that we're going to do, the marketing plan that we'll have around. Because today, making content is not just about, hey, I pointed a camera and I've made an edit and that's it. Distribution is even more important. It's like content is king and distribution is King Kong. So where you're going to put it, right? It's even more important. Where you're going to put it, how is it going to reach its audience? That is also a very important part of our business. So it's not just us ideating and going, oh, dude, come on, man, let's just think of something cool. No, it's not just that. There's a lot of packaging that goes around that. So again, when a client comes, you're just like, all right, what can we do for you? And when we think of our own idea, we're like, okay, where can we fit this now for maximum amplification and distribution? So that's pretty much what the process is on both sides.
Mm-hmm. Nirav, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, usually we get a brief from a client. So it's that kind of determines where you want to go with it. They lay out the geography and the budget. But when it comes to our own shows, there's a lot of thinking. I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of time and effort put in from when it's just an idea or core one line. Okay, let's make a show about X, Y, Z. To when it becomes a 1-page idea, to a 10-page idea, to a whatever. It takes time sometimes in development. And also, it's over the years it's become easier because we have a bit of a track record now. But initially it was, even with Breakfast with Champions, as I said, when upfront, it was that whole question when all your clients are saying, do it like this, or it should be like that, or this is that kind of a show, or whoever we're going to do to put it on a channel or a platform. It's also about backing yourself, right? So after a point now you say, okay, if I think it's going to work, and then Gaurav says, yes, I think it's going to work, let's do it. Or the other way around, right? So there's a lot of gut in this, and there's a lot of you have to weigh whether you're saying, okay, my left brain says yes, this should work. What's my right brain going to approach it with? So a bit of that has to be done as well, right? Gaurav has to scope out the market, understand who the clients are, who are looking for this kind of a content piece, and for me, how best can you tell the story? What is the story, and how does it fit in? Is it going to be a 15-minute an episode 8-part series, or is it going to be one 60-minute thing, or whatever? So it's a bit of both. So you need to push both ends at the same time. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great segue actually into my next question, because Breakfast with Champions is something that everyone spoke about. How was something like that with millions of views across each of the interviews that you've hosted so far on YouTube? How was something like that even conceptualized in the team, considering it was still a chat show Q&A format, but you made it very unique and gave it your own style, and the results obviously are there for everybody to see.
Yeah, it's actually very easily said. So the one thing that you said was, it was never a Q&A format.
Okay.
I've never written a single question for Breakfast with Champions. Never. In 55 episodes, there's never been a question written. The only time we wrote questions was when Sachin's team insisted that they needed to see some questions. And we wrote some down. And I know Sachin well enough that when I reached the shoot, I said, I'm not going to ask you any of those. He said, well, I haven't even seen any. So that was just bureaucratic paperwork, right? So never, ever written any questions. So my idea in the beginning, when I thought of this idea in about 2014, when I used to spend a lot of time with athletes, and they used to have very amazing stories, very high EQs, all of them have. I said, why is never any of this translated onto screen? It's because when they're on television, they're speaking to a brief, either they're doing commentary or they're talking about a game. And even every time they're interviewed, they're being interviewed, right? It's question and answer. That's why they're not having
and there's a
conversation.
context of the game, right? There's always the context of the game and the sponsor.
Or even if it's the context of their life, they're being asked questions. So there's never, they're giving answers. But I want to have a chat with them. So that was the idea. Just the two things that I did. And I shot a couple of episodes, sort of begged and borrowed from friends and family with cameras and, things. And the idea, there was a couple of ideas. One was, and my director from Extra Innings was involved in it, called Dhruv Varshane. So Dhruv was involved in that as well. And I said that we're just going to have 3 cameras and no lights, no makeup, no links to camera. We just start talking. And you have to keep the cameras at least 15 feet away, because the person needs to be lulled into a false sense of security of having a conversation with just a friend. And the idea was to make the audience a third person at the table. So that's what it was. And I remember that it worked. I was very nervous before the first shoot. And I remember it worked because Gary Kirsten, remember Nirav, right at the end says, and we left that in the edit. But we finished and I just in the conversation, I said, well, okay, you need to catch a flight. So I think I'll let you go. And he just turns and goes, are we done? This is when we start. What? And I said, okay, I know something's working here. Let's just do the same thing 54 more times. And that's exactly what it was. And I think that was my idea to shoot it. And Nirav's idea to edit it, and Nirav and Aditya who came on, I think that the edit really makes this show. I can think of whatever I want to in terms of fancy lingo and tell you right now, but it's the edit that makes the show. It's the music that makes the show. There is this edit pattern that they came up with, which is, I call the Shah Rukh Khan of the 90s look. It's the carefully constructed, careless look, right? And that's what these guys do. And the carefully constructed, careless look takes a lot of care to get right. So if you ever break down the edit, and you'll see edit patterns across different seasons are different in terms of the music, the montage, the stories, how it's flowing, the camera cutting. I'll let Nirav elaborate on that.
Yeah, obviously the first season, there were some episodes which were already recorded, and we actually picked them up almost a year later, Gaurav, or was it almost a year and a half after they were shot?
Yeah, about a year,
right? Yeah. And, every episode initially, the first six for the first season, I would say they were edited at least 10 times over from scratch, right? And we had to re-edit and re-edit and re-edit till we understood, okay, this works, this to this kind of a mood works, a little bit of fun, little bit of seriousness, little bit of a moral story, little bit of a emotional story, or whatever.
We used to have a beat map. Remember on that whiteboard? We put a beat map.
Yeah. And of course, each episode and each personality is different, right? But I can tell you that the flow is carefully constructed, and it evolves every season or every few episodes, right? And it's a grammar that we've shaped, having spent hundreds of hours in the edit. And it's not, sort of said, it looks like it's casual, but it's not. It's carefully constructed, and we work hard to make it look casual. And it's a lot of time spent. Kudos to the editor of most of the episodes, a guy called Aditya, who would just work through the night, spend a few hours sleeping, wake up and start
7-8
again.
days per episode, yeah. 7-8
initially it was
days
more longer, and initially each episode was edited multiple times. Till let's start from scratch.
Yeah. I'm talking about the last couple of seasons would be that.
Last couple of seasons have been, obviously easier now that we've understood and we all kind of inherently, instinctively know the grammar. But it is the hard work, and it's the hard work of what the crew puts in, and that's why, in all due modesty, this is the only Indian chat show with sports icons that has truly worked, which goes on season after season. And the thing which I said earlier, it's I think it's the timelessness of it which we are really proud of. And every good bit of storytelling should be evergreen, and we hope that most bits of each BWC episode stay engaging even years down the line. And it's nice that when I go through the comments once in a while. And that's proof that in all the 52 episodes we have, each episode has comments saying this is the best episode ever, and each episode has comments which says this episode was too short. And that, I think, is when we pat ourselves on the back and say nice. It feels that those are the ones feel good. And the other proof of the fact that these are evergreen is when recently, for example, Ishant Sharma, when he took 300 wickets, the Ishant Sharma episode had a surge in viewership. Right. Likewise, when Ashwin was man of the match the last time, and even if it's not cricket related, when the Chahal got married, there was a surge in that episode, right? In the week around that. So I think a lot of fans, when something newsworthy happens with a cricketer, and it happened even in Dada's case, in Saurav Ganguly's case, when he was in hospital for a couple of days, that there was a sudden surge in viewership of his episode, right? So all along, I think, yes, the idea was good for BWC. It was a good idea, maybe at that point, a couple of years ahead of its time, for other platforms. The talent we had, including Gaurav here, was good. We were fortunate to get a few good big names up front. But after that, it's been very hard work in every episode to get every episode right.
Why are the episodes this short? I want the longer. I think everyone wants to know that. Your editor very much.
It's a good point. But I genuinely always believe in life. You should always go when people are saying why now rather than when. Right. So I think that's very important. Also we've noticed there are certain consumption patterns that people have. And in the first few seasons, our episodes were always sort of under 20 minutes because we also, we study the data and the metrics and what people are consuming and how much they're consuming. And more than anything else, we want to make sure that all storytelling is time agnostic. So the medium allows you to be time agnostic. It's not a slot that we're trying to fill with a story. It's a story which will find its own time. So, when you see television, if you have 30 minutes on television, you got to fit the story in 23. If it's 1 hour, you got to fit it in 52, right? So then you're working backwards. Whereas here, we just keep what's gold. Gold in some cases can be 28 minutes. Gold in some cases can be 14 minutes. So we'll just keep what is gold. Nothing should slack. Nothing should drag. So that's what we do. And we like the fact that there is so another thing, we want to make the episodes kind of repeat viewability. So therefore, any portion that's not tight, we just drop it. So we could kind of pack the episode in and add 10 minutes to every episode. But then that's dropping the overall kind of product, right? So people then don't revisit it. So these are some of the reasons why. So we're never cognizant of the time, actually. We don't go, we haven't in the last few seasons done, let's cut this episode now because it's going too long. We just, is this the tightest? Nah, I feel like this part can drop, maybe move this here, move that there. This can be tighter, it can be a better product. So we're just looking at the product, we're not looking at the clock.
Makes sense. Last question on BWC for now. Are we expecting it back for season 7?
We've debated this over the last year. And yes, it's possible in the format that we are talking right now, remotely and stuff like that. But I think the intimacy of Gaurav sitting with a guest in a restaurant or a cafe or and nobody else around, or even if in some cases people were around and the cameras being far away and them not being conscious, right? On a Zoom recording, you the camera is right there. I mean, you're on camera because you're switching it on as a viewer, as a guest. Sorry. So I think we debated this, and I think I'd hold off personally till technology overtakes.
Yeah, if we can just find some kind of technology that'll sort of have the same feel. We don't want it to. The one thing we've avoided it is to make it look synthetic. We've never had sets. We've never had. So we don't want anything that would kind of compromise that. We don't want it to look synthetic. We want to have that kind of real feel to it. So I don't know. Let's see. Hopefully soon. Maybe when we're all vaccinated.
And right now, it's also difficult to access the players, even if they are open to sitting in proximity. They're always in bubbles, right? Because they moved from the IPL to Australia, back here, and in those 2 weeks, they really don't want to be doing BWC if they get to 2 weeks off.
Gaurav, so you have this unique ability to bring out a very different side of the guests you interview. How can more interviewers, hosts get better at the art of storytelling or just making their guests feel more comfortable?
Yeah, don't go into it thinking it's an interview. I think the first thing would be that, because it's not. It's a chat. It's two people having a chat. I can find out more about people's lives when I chat with them rather than if I ask them, questions like, what is your favorite color? Or, what's your favorite food? It's stuff that, doesn't, when people converse and when they can drop that, you just have to make them comfortable, right? I think inherently honesty is important. If they can just see honesty and sincerity, I don't think you can fake that. So if you are inherently a person who is not honest or sincere, nobody admits it to anyone outside, but admit it to yourself. If you're not honest and sincere, then don't embark on this, because people pick up energy. right? People really do pick up energy, and they will pick that up from you, that, you know, you can't be trusted. So I'm not going to tell you a story because you can't be trusted. So don't do it then. But that's what I would say, is just have a chat, man. Learn about the other person. Have a healthy mix of curiosity about wanting to know them and knowing some things about them that they can fall back on and talk about as well. So it's kind of a mix. You can't be asking questions that you sort of know the answer to, right? You still should be. People like when you're curious about their life and not just about some things they've done in their life. So I think that's what the difference would be, perhaps.
It helps to be a fan. It helps to be respectful towards the person you're interviewing.
Yeah, I mean, those are just non-negotiables, right? You got to be just respect is, of course, very important, which I think that people should have in every industry and everything. But there are, like, so here's the thing. There is, I don't know how many episodes you've seen, but how many do you think are people who I met for the first time on the day of shoot?
Probably most of them. Now
Now you're suspicious, right? No, but there's a good.
It's about 10, right?
Yeah, 10 people who I had just not met before. There's about 10 of them, but you'll never be able to guess which 10.
Yeah.
Just had never ever met them before. But you know, they've seen me, I've seen them. We know you meet someone, you know, it's comfortable. So you've got to kind of be affable, respectful. Just all those things I think are important.
Yeah.
And I would say, again, coming back to what I said before, at least 9 of them have in the comment section people saying best episode ever. So, you know, that's nice. That's always nice.
Definitely taken notes on that. Last
Fake
question.
it till you make it, man. Fake it till you make it.
So, that's an art in itself, but absolutely. Last question for the two of you. What is next for you individually and then collectively as a team for Oak Tree Sports?
You could tell you, but we'd have to kill you.
That's not good.
We've got, just real quick, we've got
It's
a
the
couple of
weekend.
documentaries. Yeah. We've got a couple of documentaries which we're very excited about. We've got a biopic that we'll be announcing very soon. And then, of course, lots of stuff in short format, podcasts, just sport and storytelling across various formats: audio, video, long form, short form. We're just super excited for kind of the things that are coming up, because we are attacking them from so many different angles.
Some podcast too.
Great.
See how tight-lipped Nirav is about it. He's like, it's almost like
I
he signed
can't see-
an NDA with himself.
I can't see beyond the weekend. I'm saying Friday evening.
That's it. That's all he's seeing. He's seeing Saturday and Sunday. Neelav is also he's Indian Lance Armstrong. He cycles 10,000 kilometers a year or something. What was it last year? Ridiculous amount. So when we're doing the documentary, this is a funny story. We're doing a documentary with the Delhi Capitals, so follow the team kind of. So we're doing a multiple season one with them. And in the first season that we were doing it, I think Neerav said something, you know, for every run they take, I will cycle 10 kilometers, and for every wicket they take. You said one?
No.
Okay, so 1 kilometer. Sorry, one, yeah. In the entire tournament. So for every run they score, I'm going to, you know, whatever, cycle 1 kilometer, and for every, I'm saying, but they're going to end up scoring like 2,000 runs in the
It
tournament.
was 2165 in
There you go.
April.
He cycled all of those. And when the high scoring matches started, I said, you want to make it half? Do you want to make it half? Because Rishabh Pant in the first match scored that like 80 or 90 or something, right? And they
So
scored
200 something in the
against
first match, yeah.
after the first game. I said, are you sure you want to revisit that? They just scored 200, right? These are all 140 games. Are you sure? He said, yeah, I'm sure I'm going to do it. So he did. He cycled 1 kilometer for every run, the Delhi Capitals.
Good. Wow. That's amazing. Not intimidating at all. But no, great. I mean, it brings me to the end of my questions. I've had an amazing time learning so much, and especially look forward to what you have next in the podcast space with Oak Tree and all of the other amazing content that you have in store.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you everybody for tuning in. Please don't forget to subscribe, like and share for the best tips and trends in the world of sports business wherever you listen to podcasts. Reach out over social media to connect or collaborate. Links will be in the bio. See you next time.